So thanks everyone for tuning in. Today I was on Twitter and I saw this pop up retweeted by my mate Crypto Lark. So thanks for that, Lark. Digital Rights Watch. So in Australia, they're looking to pass another law where basically we'll dive into the wording, but they're going to have a lot of access to just about all your data. So this was as someone's saying in the comments, this was a tongue-in-cheek, satire video. Encryption's going to make it harder for the government to spy on you. So look, this video is awesome. I recommend everyone check it out on the Juice Media here. So it is tongue-in-cheek, it is sarcastic, but they're presenting the facts about what is actually going on. So well done to these guys. Great video. But let's dive in and talk about this bill in particular. So this all stems back from nothing new. I remember the first job I had in pharmacy, my boss said that, there's a supercomputer, the NSA, the CIA, every keyword, message you send, search you do, goes through this this big computer looking for those keywords and a big database and scans everything. And I thought that was absolutely crazy at the time in the mid 2000s. And he used to read those underground magazines, websites, and whatever. A little bit tinfoil hat, maybe. But sure enough, it turns out to be true. So ever since Edward Snowden came out with those revelations that, basically everything we do is monitored, governments have been looking for ways to get around that, I guess. And encryption is one of those. So encryption is when we basically have a key, and only those that have the key can decode the messages. So we can encrypt data. So it's unreadable to the people that don't have that key, I guess. So, this was a couple of years ago where the judge actually rejected the requests to get a backdoor access or get that private key for an iPhone in this example. So Apple actually fought them, and I believe in the end they actually had someone else that was able to crack it. So this didn't get passed in court. So instead they try and find the best hackers that are able to hack a device. So nothing is hack proof. We've seen John McAfee come out and say, look, he's built this wallet, it's unhackable, and within a month, a couple of people were able to actually, hack the device, get into what they call the root, the base layer of software, basically installed on top of the hardware itself. So, take it apart, connect it up to your computer, and there's always a way to hack something, guys. At the end of the day, it just takes time, and very few things, if anything, are actually hack proof, because we're just dealing with software on computers, At the end of the day, the government are definitely not smarter than hackers. That's probably the key takeaway point here. In Australia, just a few weeks ago, this video went viral. So cheers, Nathan. And he was coming back into Australia. I talked about this at the time. They took his devices, his phone and his MacBook at Sydney Airport for no rhyme and reason, and basically said, we're allowed to do this now. There's been another law passed, and they copied all the files from his computer. Anything that had password protection, he had to type in the password for them. And anything that's encrypted is the next stage of this. So they're getting access to everything. Now, this isn't just at an airport or security or whatnot, guys. This is everything now. So once they have the ability to monitor this, think about how interconnected the world is. So this is not just your hardware, your devices, but this is a backdoor to maybe Facebook, every app on your phone, as well as possibly the phone itself. And that's pretty scary once you start to go down that path. And it's called the Assistance and Access Bill, or the ARS Access, as they're calling it here, guys, which I quite like that. Interesting thing here, they're giving 1 week for feedback. So they always try and slip these things in quietly without noticing. And I hope a few of you consider sending any comments to this assistance bill.consultation@homeaffairs.gov.au, but you've only got a week to do so, which is crazy. So these are the proposed changes, and what they're talking about with encryption here is they're saying that 9 out of 10 ASIO priority cases use encryption. 90% of data been intercepted lawfully. it's now encrypted. So even if they do intercept what they're saying here, guys, is, the bad guys, they're basically saying that this is used, and they reckon that all communication will be encrypted by 2020. So, a year or so away. So this is what they always say, guys. This is the front, terrorism, money laundering, crime. And the scary thing also here is the wording. So I think I read in the bill itself here, there's a couple of things I want to talk about here. So the wording's reasonable and proportionate. Now, look at what's been going on in politics lately. Look at what the banks have been doing. How can we, expect them to be reasonable and proportionate? But not only that, Australia is a member of what they're calling this Five Eyes, which I'll talk about in just a second. But basically, Australia doesn't have a Bill of Rights that protects those privacy rights like a constitution they have in the US. So in Australia, what they're saying is the Director General of Security, I think it was the Attorney General, all these people have the right to do this without judicial oversight. So you don't have to get a warrant or go to a judge and that sort of thing. You can, as long as there's a reasonable doubt and proportionate, and who knows, that is so loosely worded. Pardon the pun, but who's going to be the judge of that? So this is pretty crazy to think that this might be happening. And as we said here, so Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, a joint initiative in the name of Signals Intelligence. Because these other countries have got basically tighter laws, or they've tried this to some extent and been pushed back against, whether it's that FBI case or whatnot. But once you pass this in Australia, the world is so interconnected, everything's online. Let's say that the US can't get what they want. Well, we've all seen, there's camps in Northern Territory, military bases of the United States. Even that sort of thing, guys. We all know that all these countries help each other, bases in each other's countries and so on. So once you have a digital identity and a digital path through to that person's data through Australia, it's basically breaking down the barriers. And again, pretty scary stuff that Australia might be the go-to country if the CIA, the FBI, NSA, whatever, can't get what they want. Well, these agencies are all effectively working together now as one. So just go to Australia if this gets passed. And again, I hate to see this happening possibly in our country, but we'll talk about it at the end. If it does get passed, maybe the tech companies fight this like we saw with Apple. There's big fines here, so whistleblowers in Australia can now get 10 years jail sentences if they want to try and do the Edward Snowden, give information out that they believe is important to the greater public. 10 years in prison for telling the truth. Big fines for those that don't comply with this. I think they're proposing $10 million. I've got in my notes here. I'm really interested to see what you guys say in the comments below as well. Please share this video around at the end, as we want people to give that feedback if we don't want this going on in our country. So next thing I want to talk about was expanding on this further and what's possible. So as I said, my first boss talking about that monitoring, that was before smartphones. So we now have smartphones, cameras. We've got our smart TVs, and we've got the next generation now. Nice friendly names, smart speakers. But the fact is that they're a microphone as well. So these are now openly, people are buying these in their home. I just can't believe that people are actually doing this. I would not allow this in my home for my family. But anyway, so speakers that can pick up anything. We know that TVs have been caught picking up words again. I hate to say spying, but I guess it is what it is, guys. TVs, smart speakers, phones, cameras, whatever it is, they're collecting all this data, and they can build a profile about a person and categorize you online. And if this information is available to all different countries, again, do we want to defend our rights and our privacy? And who knows where this heads in the future? Cryptocurrency is encrypted. Privacy coins have been getting pushback already from some countries, but I'll get to that shortly. This is the PBS website where you can plug in any medicine. I'm sure a few of you might have got a cold or a chest infection, a cut, and been prescribed amoxicillin. So here we see the different brand names. This is the recommended price here, but you can go into a discount chemist and get this for probably $5. It probably costs us at the pharmacy $1 or $2 a box, but then there's add-ons that are recommended, so a dispensing fee, all little things like that, and you can choose whether or not to charge the patient. So you can go to 2 different pharmacies and pay very different prices. And I guess this is probably the lowest level of, if we know someone is on a drug and they're getting it every week and they've always paid a certain price, we're not going to make it necessarily cheaper for them versus a discount pharmacy that are going through high throughput and they're maybe not giving you as much time for customer service, or I won't get into that debate tonight, but different prices for the same thing is that concept that I wanted to introduce, and it's at the it's up to the individual to decide how much they charge you, basically. Now, we've already seen this move to the online world, so through tracking and internet cookies, guys, so they, again, storing what you like, what you've been searching for. If you've been looking at shoes or, let's say, a speaker, and you've been doing your research, which one's better, comparing them, Amazon and Google now, they know that you're interested and they can jack up the price. And there's videos out there showing that the same item will be charged to different people at a different cost, depending on their search habits. If they're an active person, maybe the internet now knows that you're going to buy more shoes or more sportswear, so they won't discount those items. Even my grandma yesterday, who's loves getting online and she's very tech savvy for an 85-year-old, she's telling me that the Amazon, the books that she doesn't want are always on special, and the books that she's been searching for, they're the ones that will never be discounted, and so on. So just little things. But again, this is probably the second generation of what I'm talking about. And the third is, in the future, when we go to a pharmacy or a supermarket, whatever it is, an online store, there won't really be prices. You'll just put things in your online basket or scan them, and the same trolley with 100 goods in it at the supermarket might be a different price for 2 different people because of your spending habits. In healthcare, they might say, look, you're buying a lot of junk food, sugary foods, and so on. We know that you're most likely going to end up with diabetes or heart disease, so your health insurance premiums or your medication is going to be more expensive. We're not going to cover it. It's really crazy to go down the rabbit hole and think about where this all goes long term once they know all this stuff about us. So what do you guys think about that? What would you do if your wife does the shopping every week? It's $200 for the family. One week you go in and you don't normally do it, and maybe they don't have your history and information. Maybe it costs more, or maybe it costs less. What they're saying is that if they know you're going to buy an item, again, they're not going to discount it. So depending on your spending habits and what goods that you like, they're going to milk you for all you're worth if they know you're going to buy something. So pretty crazy to think about all this stuff, guys. I touched on this last week. This video, I was really hoping this one got a bit more traction and a few more views, because I do see it as the number one headwind. So Bitcoin talking about implementing all the different privacy features, and Ethereum as well. How's that going to sit with governments if laws like this are passed, and Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the privacy coins, using encryption and so on. So interesting to watch how this plays out. And I guess finally, if governments are allowed to have a backdoor, or they get the keys to these apps and these devices from the manufacturers or the software producers, who's to say that's safe in their hands? So here's a list of some of the biggest hacks in the past 10 years or so. If we can't keep our nuclear facilities safe, how do we keep the healthcare records, the spending habits, the data of every single person? How's a government going to promise to keep that safe? As I said, everything is hackable to some degree. If you get the best guys out there, they really want to get in, eventually they'll find a way and they'll get in. So, business information, LinkedIn, 160 million, healthcare. So what I'm saying is that passwords, keys, I don't think they're safe in the hands of the government. I don't think you guys do either. I'll take a few questions and comments, guys, but where does this all go? Are we living in that George Orwell 1984 future already? One argument is, if you've got nothing to hide, don't worry about it. Well, then where do you draw the line? They're continually pushing that barrier. Pretty scary to think about. I'm just looking through the notes I made here today, guys. I think I've covered just about everything I wanted to, but is this the equivalent of having a camera in every room in your home? Alrighty, what are the comments we've got coming in here? Uber surges in price. Yeah, I guess that's probably another basic example of something that can change price on supply and demand. People opting out of MyGov and the health records in Australia. If you had all this information, again, and there's decentralized projects out there working on healthcare, I'm going to try and have Simply Vital Health on the channel again soon. Yeah, if these records were stored in a decentralized fashion, that's much safer than the government storing all of this. But again, if they pass those encryption laws, it's pretty scary. What happens if they say, give us your password for your Bitcoin, give us your private key. We know you've got it there, it's encrypted. Next elections are going to be very important, I'd say, yeah. Yeah, guys, if anyone wants to share the link to that petition, it really is assistance access. I'll just see if I can copy that now, and I'll put it in the description after this video as well, guys. There we go. Well, that's probably it for today, guys. I hope this video has got you thinking and maybe raised awareness of some issues that you weren't otherwise aware of. So I hope a few of you do consider giving them feedback, and we'll keep this conversation going as it changes and what this means for privacy coins, cryptocurrency, and I guess our online identities and data in general. So thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.